Jared just told me which brother would not survive in her new series.
I am not touching this question with a 10-foot pole.
Plus, we've got all the exclusive scoop on her new book, Crown of War and Shadow.
Oh my God, that's from the Black Dagger Brotherhood.
And even some tidbits on how they're handling season 2 of the Black Dagger Brotherhood. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. Welcome to Reading Under the Covers, the romance novel podcast where we chat, fangirl, and maybe even swoon over our latest reads. I'm Francesca from Under the Covers book blog, and today is special because the warden herself is here to talk all about Crown of War and Shadow, which is her new book in a brand new romantasy series. It's out now, and it's a slow burn forced proximity romantasy with a mercenary protector hero and an outcast heroine with a secret past who embark on a journey to basically save the world from demons. If you love the Toucher and Die energy, but you want to heroine who discovers her own power, then this is definitely the book for you. So let's welcome J.R. Ward. Oh my God, J.R. Ward, thank you so much for being here at Under the Covers. We've been massive fans of your work since we started the blog basically in 2011. So having you here and chatting with you is like a dream come true. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I wanted to set the vibe a little bit about the new series, especially because it is accessible for new readers of your work, but also for BDB fans that have been with you for a long time. So how would you describe what kind of ride people are in for, whether they're new, if they're romantasy readers, or also how is it going to be different for BDB fans?
So, I think this is like a first person's Dungeons and Dragons meets, it's like first person Dungeons and Dragons meets Lord of the Rings. I think that it's different from the Black Dagger Brotherhood because there's like a lot of contemporary vernacular references, like real life stuff in that series. And that series really is about like the bromance and the guys and the brotherhood. And Crown of War and Shadow, I'm sorry, I know. Crown of War and Shadow is really about the heroine's journey and following Sorrel from she describes herself as a mouse among rats and how she finds herself, her power, her destiny, when so much of her past she doesn't know about and her capabilities. And it was super fun. The thing that I loved about it is, so I don't plan any of these books. I don't think up anything. I have pictures that live in my head and I just sort of type them out. So I always feel like just like the first reader of any book that I write. So when we started, she's like walking down this cobblestone lane in this like medieval-esque village. And she's got a pox cloak over her and she's looking down and she's all covered. And then by the end, the last scene of the book, I'm not going to spoil anything, but she's loud and proud. And I love that. I love that journey between, and it's not just about all the things that happens to her, but it's like about her emotional and personal journey.
Which was actually one of the things I loved the most about was seeing her grow so much throughout the whole book and blossom, if you will. So we have our two main characters, Merc and Sorrel. If you had to describe them in 3 words, and you kind of gave me a 3-word description already for Sorrel, but if
Yes.
You had to give 3 words for each without using alpha or strong, especially for Merc, what would you say?
Oh God, alpha and strong wasn't even what was coming up for me at all. Dark, scarred warrior. And I got to be careful with Sorrel because I don't want to give anything away. But I would say lost, journey, and found for her.
That's perfect. Now, also, I think something that stood out to me with reading this one as a BDB reader is we are first person. We're just with Sorrel. Yes. We're not head hopping, if you will, like we do in the Black Dagger Brotherhood. And was it it feels more intimate to me.
Yes.
Like you're really in it with
That's
her.
Really well said.
You're really grounded with her. And I love that part of the story, especially for this type of book. Was it more difficult for you because you're so used to writing differently with the other characters, or was it just refreshing to feel that kind of like as you're experiencing it through her eyes?
So the writing the book was an effing nightmare. It was 9 months to get the first, I kid you not, it was 9 months to get the first draft straight.
Like a baby.
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't even do that math, but yes, you would be correct. The first person was not the issue, because I think for her story, you'd have to be in first person because it restricts the author from revealing anything to the reader that person does not directly experience, doesn't directly know, and doesn't directly see or extrapolate. And I think that was important for certain parts of the plot. And I'm used to dealing with big complex worlds with the Black Dagger Brotherhood. What made this a nightmare was I don't read Romantasy, and this idea came to me 20 years ago, and I've been sitting on it for 20 years. And I finally had this like break in my publishing schedule 2 years ago. My agent was like, do you have anything that could possibly be a Romantasy? Because why not? And I was like, oh my God. So I went back and I retrofitted the outline and everything, figuring out how to do all the things that had to happen in the book and make it palatable to what kind of is a younger generation than I am. Because I'm 570 million years old, and I've been in I've been in the publishing racket for like 20 years. And people of all ages read these books. So I'm not saying it's exclusively, 20 to 35s. But I wanted to make sure that it came across as I intended. And as someone who has a lot of privilege and doesn't always, I can be kind of stupid about things, I wanted to do it right. And I wanted to because I love Sorrel, and I wanted to present her in a way that was accessible to a generation that they're 5 years older than my freaking daughter. So I know that sounds weird, but I'm being honest. So that was the thing that stressed me out most. And the other thing is how much do I give out so that the secrets that hit hard at the end are still secrets, but are nonetheless credible? I feel like I failed this answer, but sorry.
No, not at all. I think that it all makes sense. And by the way, you did an amazing job at just putting in enough things, because I was taking notes. Actually, I started reading on the paper arc, and then I moved over to my e-reader, and I was literally taking notes.
Yeah.
I did have the big reveal for Merc figured out, because I did put a little note
right.
Question mark.
Yeah, right.
So I was right on that. But I think you did such an amazing job. And I do think that, especially the way I see Romantasy going, which is deeper in the plot and more world building and really big journeys, I think this will definitely hit with that.
It's
amazing for that.
Because I got a 4-book deal. So there are 4 books in this series. And one of the things that my publisher did is it will form a whole picture. So with each of the books that come out.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. And so it's all of the 4, and then there's there's a backstory that I am dying to write. I really want to do the backstory. There is a landscape, a place that Sorrel and Merc end up at that may or may not have spiders. I did not because I'm watching movies in my head, and I felt like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indy, when he goes, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? And I have these pictures in my head, and then I outline them. And I thought there was one creature coming out, and I was like, oh, we're just going to throw a Grylon in here, because there are all these mystical, magical beasts and things in this book. And then all of a sudden, they're I have this vision, and they're going through the ruins of the city, and there are all these pods around in places, and I was like, what the F's up with the plot? What is this? What are we doing? And then came the spider, and I was like, oh, hell no. I'm like, you are not going to make me write the scene, revise this scene, get this scene through copy. I'm like, ugh. Anyway, I forgot what the answer was, what the question was, but Gosh, what were we talking about?
I think that is a perfect segue to something that I wanted to ask you, which was creatures. I will save you. Actually, creatures was because Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was exactly what I felt going through scene after scene in this book, and it was amazing. And something that I felt, especially with this book, after we get, I think it was chapter 16, if I look at my notes, with the big ballast fight. That was the first big creature fight that I was like, whew, like I was sweating. And I feel like from that point, then we get the spiders and all the things. And I really feel like with this book, you were able to write these cinematic fight scenes. I mean, I'm going to call them fight scenes because they're, obviously there's no like brothers fighting, but they're action scenes, and it felt so much bigger and so much more cinematic and intense than what you get with the brothers. How was that, writing all of that?
So I really felt like this movie was an IMAX movie. Like when the scenes came down, like when they're in the middle of the bed of that lake, and they're going through all of these boulders, and she doesn't know that, and then all of a sudden this thing comes at them, and all these other things happen. Like I really felt like I could see. It's funny that you say that. That's so helpful, because I really did feel like I could see an entire landscape, and I felt like my aperture on what I was being shown was like a camera, and I was like swinging it around. And so like when and the other thing that I think is really cool about this book, but also any book that I write because of the way it works with the pictures in my head, is they stop in the middle of this freaking like prehistoric and I'm like, why are we stopping? I was like, we're supposed to be going. Why are we stopping? Why are we stopping? And then all of a sudden, Merc starts throwing the broadsword up, and he's like catching it. And I'm like, why are we doing it? And then all of a sudden, this bird of prey comes at them, and I don't find out until I finish, or until I'm like 4/5 of the way through the scene, that the flashing light on the sword is the reason why the bird found them. And so that's one of the things that I love about writing a book that's this big, is that, and it happens with the Brotherhood too, but specifically with this, like I'll find myself in a situation. It's like the snakes, it's like the spider thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so I figure if I'm surprised, if I'm worried, if I'm stressed, if I'm laughing, if I'm in love, if I'm crying, if I do my job right and I describe what I've been seeing, what I've been shown, then hopefully the reader will approximate what's in my head.
And I think that came through 100% with that same IMAX intensity. Now, another thing that I find is the world definitely is dangerous. And I wanted to ask you, if you were to drop one of the brothers in this world, because it is so dangerous, who would die?
Well, first of all, none of them would die, because the Black Dagger Brotherhood fans would hunt me down, okay? And we would have, my security works hard, but my security doesn't want to work that hard. So no one dies, okay? As someone who has been accused of killing off Wellesley for 20 years, okay? I didn't do it. And they're like, F you.
Oh my God.
So no one dies. They're all okay, and they're fine. And that is my answer. I am not touching this question with a 10-foot pole. I am not a smart man, but I'm not that dumb.
Oh man, I wanted to kill someone.
I'll tell you what. Okay. Take one for the team, and I'll say Lassiter, and he dies, and then the Brotherhood will be happy, okay?
I kind of figure it would be Lassiter, because he would do something dumb. Get himself in the wrong trouble. Okay, so I have to ask you this question, and it's totally one that you can choose not to answer or, plead the fifth. As I was reading this, I kind of felt like I was reading a Scribe Virgin Black Dagger Brotherhood world origin story. Really? Kind of like where they came from. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, it's...
Do you think that could be some Easter eggs in there?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, and you're the only person who's mentioned that. So I'm in the middle of revising the second book right now. And there is something that's so interesting that you said that. There is something in the second book where I was like, oh my God, that's from the Black Dagger Brotherhood. I was like, that there's this.
I mean,
thing.
I made lists and notes.
Yeah, no, girl, you are like, it is legit. Like, so it's funny that you say that, because literally, and it didn't come through when I first drafted it, but as I'm revising it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the thing from the thing. So
there's a lot of things from the things.
Yes. And so I think you may be smarter about my books than I am, because I think there might be things from the thing. So yeah, I think that is totally fair.
Yay! Because oh my God, if that is what comes to you, I am so excited. Just gonna put that out there. I mean, and that makes me even more excited to see what else comes through in 4 books. But that will be fun. Okay, so Merc is also this really protective hero, and what I find that was different with him being a protective hero versus how the Black Dagger Brotherhood are protective is the fact that he felt protective in a way that was supportive to the heroine versus just him exerting his power. And I love that about his character.
Totally agree.
Which is a very different dynamic from how you write your alpha heroes. Was that a conscious shift or just how he came to you?
Okay, again, I would refer to you to Exhibit A. I am not smart enough to write these books. I cop to nothing. I do wonder. You asked these are really good questions. So I do wonder if the whole orientation to the storytelling doesn't influence the way we don't use the C word in this house, and I'm not talking about see you next Tuesday. We don't say character in my household, it's people. I was very clear that when I started writing this book, it was Sorrel's journey. And I was also very clear when I wrote the Black Dagger Brotherhood series that it really was about the dudes. Not to say that the females and the women are not important, are not valuable, and the stories couldn't exist without them. And there are some very prominent women and females that are in those books. That is not to just but it was always to me about the guys and the bromance and the bonding and the loyalty and the war and the history among them. This really is about Sorrel. And I think in order for me to really focus on her, like, I hate that word journey, but like, the way she transforms throughout the book, everything else kind of has to take a second. Maybe it's not like a back seat. Maybe it's everything is through her. The romance is through her. The world is through her. The self-discovery is through her. So I wonder if by definition, Merc has to be a little bit, he's definitely not a beta, but I see what you're saying. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, which I actually thought it was really refreshing because he is so powerful and so protective as well. But he's giving her the space to develop into and flourish herself into, the total badass that she becomes. So that was exciting. Okay, so I'm going to play for a second a little BDB game here.
I'm ready.
A little interlude here.
I'm ready.
So if Merc obviously wears leathers and he's a mercenary. Yes. If you were to drop him into the Brotherhood Mansion, who would he fight first? And who would he actually be friends with first?
He would be friends with all of them because when they all fought him and they would fight, they would immediately fight everybody. Like, kill everyone. Okay? Like, there's no, like, no. I mean, it would be the dog pile of the world. It would turn, it would be, it would make a UFC octagon look like a frickin' tea party. Okay? But he would do so much damage on the way to being pinned face down on the ground that they would instantly respect him, and it would be fine. And then Fritz would come in with the canapes and the wet mat. Yes. So it would be perfect.
Totally perfect. And now Sorrel being the total badass, like you said, she feels like she's this larger than anything you've written female, but she's also an outcast. So if you were to have her be with the Shellens, who would she be having a girls' night with, and what would they do?
Okay, now this is where you have to tell me to go F myself. Okay? Like, you really need to tell me to go F myself. She wouldn't be with the Shellens. She wouldn't.
Okay.
She wouldn't. She would be with the Black Dagger Brotherhood. And I hate answering it like that, because that suggests in some way that what the Shellens bring to the books or to the world or to their lives or to their matings is somehow like a second class thing or something to be left behind, or that they're somehow weak. And I that implication is not what I'm saying here. But I don't want to go too far into this, because I don't want to like tip things too much. But yeah, she would be with the Brotherhood. And it's funny.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because but I would say reluctantly so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the cards she's been dealt. Yes. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you were to pick a few rapid fires, who is the actual worst roommate in the mansion?
All of them, for different reasons. Raph is constantly impatient. He's got a hair across his ass. He's like he always is hangry, even if he's just eating something. Rhage has like the smell of Tootsie Pops, that like smell, like particularly when he has an orange one, like no thank you. Like Vicious hates me. And it's just awful. And like, the cigarette smoke is like fine in theory, but in actuality, I think it would make my eyes run and I would sneeze and I would be vaguely nauseous the whole time. Last year would be the best one for me, because we could totally watch Love is Blind and we could like hang out and I could eat my like weird homemade chicken salad like for dinner, which I eat all the time. And like, he wouldn't judge me. And like, I also like Tostitos. So I'm like there. So I would say last year would be the best one for me personally. But like, Fury would be good, but he plays opera all the time and that gets a little freaking heavy. And then Zadis, I'm in love with him, but so I can't spend too much time in his presence, because then I start thinking about his past and I would be crying. Revenge is great. I love him, but he's always cold and I'm postmenopausal. So I have hot flashes. So don't get me in anything that's warm, and he's got to always have the heat up. So that would be a pain in the ass. Like no offense. Like, I am married to my husband and we have been together for 700 years. And like, we have negotiated all of the, like, as all people do, like all couples negotiate their little quirks and stuff, but it's taken us like 25 years to get here. So like everyone else, I couldn't handle. So I don't know whether I answered that all right, but
I think that sounds like a nightmare for all of the above.
And then Quinn is like always changing his hair color. So like the sink is always like full of like box dyes and like bleach and everything. I would totally live with Blay. Blay is neat and wonderful and lovely, and he smells really good. So I could live with Blay. I could live with Lassiter. The rest of them can go pound sand.
That sounds like reasonable. And then the last one that I had is, who is most likely to cry at a wedding?
Okay, all of them. Okay, but you would never. Okay, so Lassiter would openly weep, and then everyone else would be like turning away, and like you wouldn't ever see them wipe a tear. And Vicious would fight you if you suggested that he had even sniffled once.
Right, of course. Now, if Mark was still at the mansion, though, because in the Black Dagger Brotherhood, music is kind of important.
Yes.
What is he listening to?
Oh, see, he comes from like a vaguely medieval world. Like Anathos doesn't really like exist. So I think he would be like, I think he would fall in pretty quickly with the hardcore rap and hip hop. But it would like take him, once he decided that like it was not a pounding headache. You know what I mean? Like, I think, because think about it, if you have never heard any of that kind of music, your ears would have to figure, like, it would be a very interesting, wonderful experience, but I think he would love it.
That's what I was thinking. Is he going to be more of an opera, or is he going to, because he's definitely not watching soaps with Lassiter, for sure. Absolutely.
This is really interesting. This has been a really super fun interview, because you're like making me think about all these things that I didn't think about. But like, what would Merc think if he saw a television screen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like an iPad?
Yeah,
like an
definitely.
iPhone?
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
In the case of the mansion, a Samsung.
Now, obviously, you also released the TV show of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, which I'm so excited to get to season 2. And I just wanted to ask you real quick on that. How involved were you in bringing to life Rage's Beast, because we saw a little clip of that in season 1, but that is a visual important part, how, you saw it. And then of course, bringing that with special effects and budget to life. How was that experience?
That was
and how involved
really
were you in
cool.
that?
So part of the reason why, the Black Dagger Brotherhood over the last 20 years, there have been a number of studios and potential partners that have approached me. And the thing that always made me a little nervous about it is this is not, it's a going concern, and it has a wonderful readership and a devout fandom. And I didn't want to, unless I had some meaningful creative control over it, I didn't want to do it, because I think it's really important not to spoil, whatever, you're never going to get it 100% right, ever.
Right.
But the reason why I went with Tosca and Passionflix is because I was able to get directorial approval, script approval, and casting approval. And what I love about working with her is that although those are the 3 contractual approvals I got, she checked in with me on everything: wardrobe, sets. And part of that was determining down to the way the wings looked on that dragon, the color, the whole thing. And we're now, so I have approved the 6 episodes for season 2, and the table read is actually in about 2.5 weeks. It's the first week in March, and they are building the sets. We have 2 sound stages, and hot tea just for you. I haven't talked about this yet. I'm probably going to get my ass fired, but that's nothing new. But they're the 2 sound stages that they filmed a lot of the Walking Dead on. And
cool.
So they are actually building the mansion and the inside of the mansion and everything. And they're building out stuff. And it's really cool. Like bringing up that and the trims and what does this look like and what do the stairs look like. And so Passionflix and Tosca and everyone at Passionflix has been an incredible partner. And I think that as the budgets get bigger and we're able to do more and more stuff, because the support for season 1 was unbelievable. I mean, how people worldwide got behind that. And the thing that I love about the readers and the fandom, particularly fandom, is I don't know many people who will go and actually buy a subscription service, and when it crashes, they hit the internet and go, "We did it again! We broke it!" And that was what we all loved about it, was just because they crashed it 4 out of the 6 episodes. They crashed it, and it was down. And the good news was it was only down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But the fact that that many people worldwide were just trying to get on so I'm just super excited and super grateful. And no, I am not leaving the Black Dagger Brotherhood behind at all.
Yeah.
The BDB is open-ended. And we had to do the time jump just because, there's always a beginning and middle and end to everything in life. So at some point, the Black Dagger Brotherhood series will end. I don't have any plans anytime soon. I have at least, the children's books are about 10 children's books. The children of the original brothers are about 10 books. And so we've got plenty of years ahead of us to keep going. But I was very conscious of not feeling like I wanted to leave that world until the readers knew what happened to all of the kids that came out of these original relationships,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And also with season 2 being about Rhage, because Rhage is so funny. Do you think that season 2 feels a little bit lighter than, in theme than season 1?
No, not at all.
No.
Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Oh my Lord. So, episodes 5 and 6, because they start to hint about where season 3 is going with Zadis. Oh my God. So dark.
Yeah.
So dark. And then the ending of as Lover Eternal comes into the end, it gets quite dark at the end itself. So no, the darkness is all there. And all the boys are coming back, which is wonderful. We have the best cast ever. And one of the things about casting these guys is we made them promise that they would come back, that they aren't just, and so It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be like a reunion. And they all became friends. You know, most of them are out on LA or spend meaningful amounts of time in LA. And so they all get together out there for birthdays and that's just great. I love that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so I wanted to get back to Crown of War and Shadow, of course. And I had to point out this really wild coincidence that maybe, obviously was not intentional, I'm sure, but the book is dropping February 17th, which is when we're recording this. And it is also today, the first day of Lunar New Year, which is the start of the Year of the Horse. And horses are an important part of this book.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, which I love that part of it, because I think that you really were able to incorporate that so beautifully throughout the story. But also made me think about your first book and your first couple of books, actually, as Jessica Bird, Leaping Hearts, which also had horses.
Pulling that out. Oh my goodness. This is like you get like the AAA+ like interview.
Is it because horses are so important to you, or, you know, the meaningfully something, or just randomly by accident happened?
So I back when gravity was considerably less interested in me, I was in the world of horses for a while and had them and jumped them and all that stuff. And they say, write what you know. And I can remember, so I wrote my first story when I was 7. And I don't drink and I don't go out and I just work and I work out. And that's the way I've always been, no matter what I've been doing. Okay, I've been to a couple of concerts and I do go to basketball games. But my point being is like in your 20s when people are like going out at bars. And so that was never my thing. And I don't fault that is good for people. Like I don't judge. That's not a judgment thing. So when I was working in Boston as a lawyer, I didn't go out. I just stayed home and I wrote. And so I wrote a bunch of parcels and everything. And my mom had a house down on Cape Cod. And every weekend, my now husband and I would go down to Cape Cod, hang out with my mom, go to the beach, whatever. And there was this turn on the way there on some of the back roads on the Cape. And there was a horse in a paddock. And I can remember the moment Leaping Hearts came to me. My husband and I were in my black Saab 9.5, and we came up to a stop, and he was driving, and I looked over, and I saw the horse, and I said, I need to write a romance about with a horse in it. And it was funny, because I knew that I wanted to write romances because, first of all, if you want to be a published author, it's a big, vigorous market. So I was like, if I want to try and get published, like, let's start with a big pool. But more than that calculation was the fact that I had been reading romances since I was like 12 or 13 years old. And it started with Harlequin Presents and Penny Jordan and Ann Mather. And then I switched over to special editions with Elizabeth Lowell. And I was reading Elizabeth Lowell's like single titles and Johanna Lindsey and like all the things. And so I also have, those are the books that I read. And so I actually put Leaping Hearts in because of that horse at that corner and because I knew about the horse world. And yeah. And then the reason why Crown of War and Shadow is there are no automobiles in here. This is a medieval world. So if you're going to make any distance at all, you're going to do it by ship, you're going to do it by foot, or you're going to do it by horse. And then I didn't even expect that. I didn't even know Levante was coming. And then all of a sudden Levante appeared, and he is Sorrel Stallion and a character in the book of all on his own. And I just love him so much. Yes, Levante.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And actually, as you were telling the story about Cape Cod and all that, like some of the visions, I guess, that Sorrel was having with the horse running at the beach and all of that, like it kind of makes sense. And actually, I wanted to ask you, since you mentioned Johanna Lindsey, and I am actually working on a little project of reading old historicals. What's your favorite Johanna Lindsey?
Well, my favorite. Okay, so first of all, I need to acknowledge that some of her books are problematic now. You know what I mean? Like some of the depictions in them.
Yeah. That is actually kind of the project that I am doing, is talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't feel, I no longer feel comfortable saying what my favorite Johanna Lindsey book is, because I think it's problematic now. And I don't want to, I don't want to comment on that.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
But I will tell you that Elizabeth Lowell's medieval trilogy that she did is like some of my favorite romance writing ever. And the fact that she never wrote the fourth one about Cassandra and Eric the Knight still to this day haunts me. And like, I wish I could read that book. And, you know, I think it was interesting because when I got the idea for Crown of War and Shadow, it is a medieval like world. And I remember the vision that came to me that started the whole book, which I really can't talk about right now because it's going to give away the whole parts of the whole series. Harkened back to, I remember when it hit me, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of Elizabeth Lowell's incredible medieval series. Boy, that really rocked my world. I loved that series so much.
And it made such an impact also because it's kind of like an open-ended story, basically.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why I think I wanted, again, right. Why I wanted to do the children of the brothers, because I mean, so many people would be like, oh, you know, where does Biddy end up? What happens with LW? And so,
especially LW. Oh my God. Waiting impatiently.
Yeah, that's going to be
waiting very impatiently for that.
I think his book's going to be probably 2 books from now, if I had to guess.
Okay.
2 books.
Okay. We will wait. Okay. Also, I wanted to bring up the fact that I've noticed that you have a lot of male readers, more so, I would say, than some other romance authors I see, including my husband in there, who was very upset that he couldn't be home to meet you.
Oh,
today.
I would love to meet him.
His favorite is still Wrath, even though he's on Rev's book. But what do you think is the appeal that you have been able to kind of cross over into this male readership where a lot of romance authors maybe can't do it as easily?
Well, first of all, I feel awkward ever commenting on readers' tastes, decisions, or perspectives, because for me as an author, I respect the boundary between myself and readers. I don't want to ever talk on their behalf, extrapolate on their behalf. As I often say, readers are not welcome in my space when I work. I'm not even welcome in my space when I work. My job is only to give these pictures in my head every breathing space that and every freedom that they need to just spool out. And I don't feel like I should be welcome in any reader spaces. And that authors and readers come together with a handshake over the actual book. We both have a role to play in the book. And I think that the best neighbors are those with good boundaries. And so I don't want to speculate about why men read or like my books, because I can't comment on that. I don't know. I have, if I had to speculate, and again, I would never want to speak for them. I had someone talk about the books last week, which was very insightful, very much like you. And she said that my books are just a little bit grittier. There's not a lot of flowery stuff in them. There's not a lot of, and maybe that's me as a person. You know, I'm an adult athlete, and I'm not someone who cuts a lot of slack for myself. I'm not someone who makes a lot of excuses about being in pain or being tired or being whatever. I come from a family and a generation of shut up, nobody cares, work harder. And and I'm not advocating that for other people. I'm not saying it's healthy, and I'm not holding that out as like some great gold medal, okay? Because I actually think it's probably not all that balanced, and it's not a nurturing. I don't come at the world from a nurturing place. I wonder and also this is very stereotypical, talking about stereotypical men and women, and even using the term athlete. I feel like I'm casting aspersions, and that is not the point. I'm not doing that at all. I wonder if some of that doesn't come across in word choice, in the way the men come across. And by the way, there are women who are nicer, kinder, more wonderful and warm people than I am, who write better than I do, and who are totally successful and write incredible men. Absolutely. But, I spent a lot of time with male athletes. I spent a lot of time with men. I have a lot of friends of mine. All of my good friends, or a lot of them, are men. So I that's the only thing that I wonder, is that in some sort of unconscious way, all of that comes across, and maybe they see. I don't know. I feel like I failed this question, and now I want to kick my ass, because I do not.
I think that makes total sense, though. I think that makes total sense because, also as a person that, like you, I'm not very flowery either.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense in the bromance, and even how the males relate in the series. I think that totally makes sense.
But also
that they could identify themselves easier.
Yeah, but please understand, I'm not holding that out as somehow better than femininity, or
yes,
it's not a value judgment at all, because that's not where I often get worried as I answer questions, and this is not anything against you, but like, I want to make sure that like the full context of my orientation towards the questions are coming out, because again, I'm not saying that
absolutely totally, and I completely agree with that. And also, in speaking about men and male, you've been writing alpha males for 2 decades. So how do you think your definition of a hero has changed from when you were writing, I don't know, 2006 versus 2026?
I don't think it's changed a lot. I think that you can be an alpha male and still be a decent freaking person. You know what I mean? And like a lot of the men that I have in my life, a lot of them are really into sports. They're very competitive. They're excelling at business. They're high performers, high earners, and they love their wives. They honor their children. They're decent individuals. And I think I love a morally gray hero. In a romance book, I don't want to freaking live with that, and I don't want it in my life.
Yes.
So I think in large measure, it's the same paradigm, maybe, because all the Brotherhood, like, they're all giant swinging dicks out there in the world bumping into stuff, but they're at their core decent, and they're loyal. They have moral compasses. So I think that that's really important, because I think when you're talking about a love story, for the kind of love stories that I write and that I want to read, I've got to understand why the heroine likes the guy. Like, she can, or maybe she doesn't like him because he's freaking irritated because he's a hard-headed son of a bitch. But there's a reason why she respects him, or she's not fundamentally frightened by him, or she's like, there has to be a decency there. Otherwise, I'm not going to believe that this woman's going to want to have anything to do with him.
Absolutely. And actually, I think the way you've answered that question is how I see why your books can stand the test of time. And somebody can pick up a book today that was written in the early 2000s and still works, is because your heroes maintain that same decency all throughout. It's not like they were a certain way 20 years ago and now they're not palatable because of that.
But it's interesting, because it also goes back, though, to your question about Merc. And well, it wasn't a question about Merc, but it was a question about me writing this romantasy, and me being so conscious about, this younger generation who might read it, because I want the books to be accessible to them too. And I think I was nervous about it, because I was nervous about exactly what you're talking about. It's like, have tastes change. And I think through writing Crown of War and Shadow, I've learned that actually tastes haven't changed. There's just more space for women and women's journeys, and the power of women and women's friendship. So I actually feel it's this new way 20 years later, it's a real liberation. Not that I didn't have strong heroines in my books, but it's a whole new a whole new opportunity to tell a woman's journey in a new way now.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I think that's exciting about this series for sure. So I'm going to just end it with asking you for some book recommendations. What are you currently reading and loving recently? Maybe give us like 5 titles that you've absolutely loved.
Okay, so I'm going to fail this question. I don't read. The last thing I want to do when my days start at 5, they end at 6:30. And, other than meals and running, I'm working the whole time. The last thing I want to do is read anything. I will tell you, I've been reading Annalise Bana's Lore of the Wild, Lore of Tides. That was a great duology that she wrote. She's a fabulous writer. I adore her. I will say that when I started this, I thought that I should read one romantasy just so that I knew, like, I had my own, like, because here's the thing, I can only tell the story that's in my head. So that's why I was a little bit nervous about how this book is going to do, because some early reviewers said it's not like anything that's out there. And I was like, well, that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you come at it, But I was very relieved to see that people have been really positive about Crown, and I'm super, super hopeful it'll find a really big audience. But I decided I would go out and I would read a romantasy. So like an idiot, I decided to start with ACOTAR, and it revealed me for the hack that I am. Sarah J. Maas ruined me. I was like, I'm putting up my keyboards and I'm going to go bury my head in the backyard because I shouldn't be typing anything. And, that book was so raw. The pacing was spectacular. The characterization was incredible. The descriptions, the dialogue, the way the world was reviewed. She has a knife edge. When that woman writes, you are aware that anything could happen. She is an towering talent. And, a lot of people think, well, it's just genre writing, so like whatever. And I'm sorry, I'm going to curse now. My response is, fuck that. It is incredibly hard to do genre writing well, because you're dealing with tropes, you're dealing with stuff that's done before, and you're dealing with, relatively speaking, a kind of guaranteed happily ever after. And that is the playing field you got to be on. And to write something that feels new, feels fresh, is groundbreaking, just slaps you upside the face. Like, Sarah J. Maas is an incredible literary talent. And it's like Stephen King, he started out in horror and then he won the National Book Prize. And that's another person who makes me believe I should hang up my keyboard. So anyway, back to ACOTAR. So I read it. I loved it. She schooled me. She paddled my ass, and I've never been the same since. And I want to read Fourth Wing, but I only want to read Fourth Wing because, first of all, Rebecca Yarros is like one of the nicest people ever that you're ever going to meet. She's lovely. I want to read Fourth Wing but only after the whole Crown of War and Shadows series is done. It's called Kingdoms of the Compass, because I don't want to be affected by anything. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to read romantasy, kind of like I don't read vampires. Jennifer Armentrout, man, Blood and Ash, read that. But I read that when it came out like 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was fabulous. But, other than that, I just don't read unless I'm asked to quote for something. So there are a couple of books that I've been asked to quote for that I loved. But yeah, I kind of failed this question. I feel like I should have been like ready.
No, I think that was amazing.
I read this week and that week, and this is my TBR, and I don't have a TBR.
No, I think that makes total sense too, because then the ideas will get diluted, or you're going to pick up something from a book. So that makes total sense.
So I have a question for you.
For sure.
So I have a question for you. My question for you, as someone who's been in the book business for a million years, and has seen so much of the trends that have come and gone, right? Mm-hmm. Romantasy now is the biggest, hottest, like not since paranormal. Okay, back in probably 2008, 2009, 2010, has there been this rabid a market What do you think comes after? What do you think comes after Romantasy?
I could be wrong, but I actually think we are on a backwards cycle. So I think we're going back to paranormal and urban fantasy and maybe historicals coming back. I feel like publishing is always behind the the curve, and I feel like that we're going back.
Well, it's interesting.
Even I think Romantasy is starting to change because, like how you were saying that the way you wrote this, it was getting some mixed reviews at first because of how different it is. I think there is a place where I am seeing Romantasy readers crave that because it was a little bit more for a time, more like the fast fashion type. And the worlds were not as fleshed out and it wasn't as deep. And it was more just about the romance with a little bit sprinkling of world. And I think that readers are starting to really crave this, basically, like going really deep into a fantasy world that feels deeper and have more yearning and have the characters work more for a relationship. So I think that we are seeing more of that as far as Romantasy goes. In terms of trends, I see it going backwards. And the vampires, I mean, even last year, vampires have made a resurgence in quite a way where they weren't getting as published as much.
That's interesting you said it.
Even dystopian.
yeah. Like Hunger Games, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like Hunger Games for adults. Is what.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I have heard historicals. Because I ask a lot of people in the business about this, because that's what we're all sort of interested in. I mean, now that I'm in the kingdoms of the compass, like I could see myself staying in Romantasy for as long as I've been in paranormal, because my voice, the pictures in my head naturally gravitates towards this kind of magic and pathos and war and magical creatures. And like, that's where my head naturally goes. But I've heard a couple of people say historicals are what they're looking into or what they're interested in next. And I think one of the challenges of writing contemporary romance is that there are very few, this is not a social commentary, but in our world, you can love basically whoever you want to love. I'm not saying we don't have more from a social perspective. We have more things that we have to do to become tolerant and accepting. I'm not saying that. But when you look at it from in terms of high stakes and conflict in a romance, I can't be with her because she's X or Y, or I can't be with him because he's X or Y. That kind of internal conflict doesn't really resonate. But in a historical world, there can be social rules that are established that create tension, conflict, angst, and stakes that just don't exist in contemporary stuff. And so I suspect I think that's why historical might come back. Yeah. But maybe it's newly interpreted. Maybe it's like a new way of interpreting it, Well,
I mean, it's funny because I'm seeing even with readers, like, for example, on TikTok, where they're reading a lot of the Romantasy, and what they're going out and picking up is they're going to the used bookstore sales and grabbing the old historicals and loving them. So that's why I've been seeing so much of that I do think that there is some yearning for that. I mean, it is also the yearning in a historical, like you said, it can add more drawn out journey to say for the romance where that's just built into how the world was. And I feel like some of that has been washed out in the current romance. So that I think makes total sense.
Yeah. And I think that back to Crown of War and Shadow, people have been saying it's different. They haven't said it's bad that it's different. I just got nervous about them saying it was different. Yeah. So far, everyone has really loved it. And I've been very grateful for the support and the kindness, especially among people that are new to me. They've heard J.R. War, but they've never read me or whatever. The business person in me was kind of like, different, could be good, could be bad. But the writer in me, I love this world. I love Sorrel. I love Merc. I love writing these kind of books. And I'm so grateful to so many new people who have reached out and been kind and lovely. And I don't take that for granted at all.
Yeah, and I really hope that new readers discover you here and they just go and read your whole backlist, because there's so many amazing books for them to discover.
Oh, and also, Crown of War and Shadow is available on Kindle Unlimited from the jump.
Yes.
So one of the good things,
That's
and
exciting.
There's never been a JR award. We've never done my books don't tend to go into Kindle Unlimited. Some of the Side Rigger series have gone for just like a moment or two as part of a promotional deal as like one of the side series or something. But Crown of War and Shadow, right from the jump. Because one of the things that's important to me, especially with where the country's at, you know, and where the economy is at, is access is important to me. And and having this be in Kindle Unlimited, I think will give people an opportunity to read it as part of their normal, not normal, but as part of a reading program that works for them. And I'm so excited that my publisher put us in there. I think it's a really great thing for the series, and really great thing for hopefully the readers that end up liking it.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it going to be the whole series like that?
Yeah.
That's fun. I completely agree with that. I think that there's a lot of people that rely on those programs, so having it there, it's excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming today. Oh my God, this was so much fun.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. And this is actually, you're a great interviewer. Man, these questions are so, they were wonderful. Thanks. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Well, you know, now I'm going to be expecting to look for those Easter eggs of the Scribe Virgin origin story in book 2. I'll keep my notes.
Yes.
All right, everyone, and that's all we have for you guys today with J.R. Ward. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, and that you go and pick up Crown of War and Shadow immediately. All the links are going to be in the description box down below. And let me just leave you with the fact that this is one of my favorite books that I've read so far in 2026. If you want to know more about J.R. Ward, we have deep dives on all of her backlist, whether you're looking at Black Dagger Brotherhood books or even some of her contemporaries that we talked about here today. I will leave all of that link so you can go and deep dive more into J.R. Ward's books. Let me know in the comments down below what is your favorite alpha hero from J.R. Ward if you've read her books, and if you haven't, are you going to pick up Crown of War and Shadow? Let me know in the comments down below. But in the meantime, that is all I have for you guys today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!